Today we're going to be going over Pollock Pines versus Camino, California. It's a snow town showdown, so you can decide which town would work best for your family. I'm going to evaluate these two towns based on 8 critical criteria, and by the end of this video you should know whether Pollock Pines or Camino, or maybe neither one, are right for your family. So let's get right into it. Criteria number 1 to evaluate these two towns is the community vibe or feel. And here these towns are actually different. They're only a few miles apart, but they are a very different feel. So Pollock Pines is a little bit more remote than Camino, and it feels that way. It feels like a smaller, more remote rural town. There's actually more people in Pollock Pines than Camino, but it feels further out and it feels more rural and more removed. It's also got heavier snow load, so this place feels like a real mountain town. They call it on the town sign, Pollock Pines, Nature's Wonderland, and it really does feel that way. Now, Camino is the home of Apple Hill, our big agricultural festival in the fall, and as such, it really does have that agricultural farm town feel. So it's a very different vibe. Farm town, farmer's market type of vibe in Camino, and mountain snow town vibe up in Pollock Pines. They both get snow, and more on that later, so stick around for that because there is a big difference there and you're going to want to know it. But in general, if you're looking to be further out, more far-flung, less interactions, less tourists, Pollock Pines is a place for you. If you want to be a little more in the heart of it and have an agricultural town that has a big festival that brings people out to cut their own Christmas trees, pick their own pumpkins, get apple fritters, and do pony rides and face painting with the kids, then Camino is going to be more your jam. If you're getting anything out of this video, hit the like button, click subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss another video with crucial information to help you with your relocation. Now, back to Pollock Pines versus Camino. Criteria number 2 when evaluating these two communities is home prices and home affordability. So this one, they differ wildly, with the median home price in Pollock Pines, California, as of the recording of this video in the spring of 2025 at about $385,000, and the median home price in Camino, California, as of the recording of this video at $550,000. Now that is a big gap. So what do you get for your money in both places? Well, at your median of $385,000 in Pollock Pines, you're gonna get about a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500 square foot home on just shy of half an acre, and it's gonna need a little bit of elbow grease and work. Now what do you get in Camino for your $550,000? You're gonna get a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,900 square foot home on about an acre, and it's also gonna need a little elbow grease and a little bit of work. So you are getting a much better deal, a much lower median home price if you're willing to go that bump further out to Pollock Pines. With that big of a difference, the deciding factor for your family may just come down to budget. If you have a sub $500,000 budget, Pollock Pines is your best option here on the western slope of the Sierras, one of our most affordable communities. If your budget is $500,000 or up, then you're getting into Camino and Placerville territory, and that might be a better fit for your family. So right about now, you might be wondering who I am and why you should be listening to me about Pollock Pines, Camino, real estate, or anything at all, really, and that's a fair question. My name is Rich Curtis, and I've been selling homes here in the foothills for over 20 years now, in markets ranging from the Great Recession to the COVID market insanity and everything in between. So when it comes to El Dorado County real estate, I've got you covered. My goal with this channel is to help you make the highest quality real estate decisions you can from the comfort of your couch. So to that end, let's jump right back into our comparison of Pollock Pines versus Camino, California, so you can decide if one of these little towns is your new home. Criteria number 3 when evaluating Pollock Pines versus Camino comes down to size and population. Now, the numbers are going to show Pollock Pines as a bigger town, but the feel is very different. We're going to get to that, but let's start with the numbers. By the numbers, Pollock Pines is just over 6,000 people as of recording this video in an area of about 8.6 miles, 8.6 square miles for Pollock Pines. Camino is just shy of 2,000 people as of recording of this video in an area of about 2.57 square miles. So Camino is far, far smaller in terms of land area and far, far smaller, 3 times smaller in terms of population size. So Camino is, on the numbers, the far smaller town. But here's the difference. Camino is closer. So from Placerville, the next decent sized town, Camino's only 9 or 10 minutes versus Pollock Pines about 25 minutes. So it's closer to town, so it feels more connected to town. But that's not the biggest difference. The biggest difference is the Apple Hill Festival that runs all throughout the fall, which has people, like I said before. For October, you got people doing You Pick Pumpkins. For Christmas, you got people cutting down their own Christmas trees. For the rest of the time, you've got apple fritters, apple donuts, you've got face painting and pony rides and handmade crafts. It's like a big Etsy festival out there with tables. You can buy any cool little thing you want. It's a great place to get presents for Christmas, and it draws in massive crowds from the Bay Area, which comes with its own challenges, which you can see in our Camino pros and cons video, like traffic, but it means that influx of people, that tourist traffic, just makes it feel like a bigger, more connected town, even though there's only 2,000 people living there. Now, by the way, if you're parsing the data, that is just for the towns of Camino, but sometimes the towns of Camino and Cedar Grove get lumped together in those numbers, but it's essentially the same place and essentially the same numbers. But if you're digging around online and you see the name Cedar Grove mixed in there, that's all wrapped into what we're talking about here. So Camino, even though it's a far, far smaller town, does feel larger. So in your day-to-day living, which is what's important here, what we're talking about here is what kind of feel you want in the place you're gonna live. If you want the more remote, small town, isolated feel, Pollock Pines is the place for you. And good news, as in the last segment you learned, you get it for a much cheaper price. But if you want to be in a small town for a good chunk of the year, but have times of the year where it feels bigger and more bustling and festive with the holidays and it's closer to getting into town, it feels a little more connected, then Camino is going to be the right place for your family. Criteria number 4 when evaluating these two communities comes down to schools. And there's not a ton of difference here, but there is a little difference. So let's go through it for you. Pollock Pines has 2 schools. It has Pinewood Elementary School and it has Sierra Ridge Middle School. So you do have 2 schools there that are separate, and there is no high school. So the kids have to go down to Placerville for high school, to El Dorado High School most likely. And there is no difference there between Pollock Pines and Camino. Neither one has a high school, but Camino has just the one school. They have Camino School, which is a K-8. The school and the school district and everything is on one piece of land, one campus. It's the school and the school district. They do have a charter science school that is there as well on the same property. So technically you could say Camino has 2 schools, but for K-8, it's really the one school, and then there is a school of choice there with the charter science school. So there's not much school choice in either community. Now, if you want your kids to technically go to one school for elementary and then a different school for middle school, then Pollock Pines may have a little advantage there. Or if you want to take advantage of the charter science school, easy for me to say, then Camino may have a little advantage there. But both communities basically essentially have no real choice when it comes to schools. And if you want any kind of choice, if you're a Montessori family, if you're a Waldorf family, if you want other kind of charter school programs, you're gonna have to go down the hill, Placerville, but probably even further to Shingle Springs, and sometimes even all the way down to El Dorado Hills before you get more school of choice options. So when it comes to schooling, both communities have limited options. The schools that are there are good schools with dedicated great teachers, but you just got to go with what's there. There's not a lot of options. If you want more options, then neither of these communities might be for you, and check the links at the end of the video for some more information about Placerville or Shingle Springs, where you'll get some more school options. Now, some of you watching this might be in the homeschool world, and the Foothills in general is pretty supportive of homeschooling, and we have a lot of support and a lot of pods for socialization for your homeschool kids. Now, you're going to see more pods when you get down to the Placerville level than you will in Camino or Pollock Pines, but you can access those as well. And I think both communities are going to be pretty on par when it comes to being able to homeschool your kids. Do be advised that Pollock Pines gets heavy snow, and if you're homeschooling and you don't have a need to leave the house and you get snowed in for a few days, then there may be less socialization opportunities for your Pollock Pines homeschool kids than there would be in Camino. We'll talk more about the snow differences later in the video, but bear that in mind. Criteria number 5 when it comes to evaluating these two communities has got to be fire insurance. And this is a big one. It's a big one statewide. It's not just here on the western slope of the Sierras. If you live in the Oakland Hills, you're dealing with bad fire insurance. If you live down in Laguna or the Palisades, you are dealing with bad fire insurance. We are only here in the spring of 2025, a few months out from those devastating LA fires. So this is a statewide issue, but there are places that are affected more and worse, and there are going to be slight differences in these communities. In general, both of these communities are in the pines, in the trees, in the high fire severity zones, and for the most part, you're going to end up on the California Fair Plan for fire insurance for either of these communities. Now, do be advised that when you get California Fair Plan, it's just for fire. For all your other insurance needs, you need a secondary policy called a DIC policy. But both of those policies wrapped together, you should expect a bare minimum of $6,000 to $8,000 a year in terms of your insurance premiums. It's not unheard of to get over $9,000 or $10,000 very quickly, depending on the size of the house or the fire severity in the area. If you're buying a large, custom, expensive home on a lot of acreage in the Pines, it is not unusual or unheard of to see insurance premiums in the $20,000 range. If you're over $1 million and it's a high-end home in these areas, you're gonna see things upwards of $20,000, $25,000 in terms of annual insurance premiums. So if you're that kind of buyer, do be advised, there's a little sticker shock coming your way when it comes to hazard insurance. There are some things you can do to bring that down. We've got some great podcasts. You can check my Informed Home Buyer podcast playlist where we interview Aurora Mullet on 3 different episodes of different things you can do to reduce your insurance costs. But no matter how you slice it, $6,000 to $8,000 is going to be the minimum. $9,000 to $10,000 is probably going to be average, and it can go up from there. It's something you need to know about both of these towns. There's not going to be probably a dramatic difference between Camino and Pollock Pines, but if I had to say which community is probably worse in terms of fire costs, it would be Pollock Pines, but it's not going to be huge. Both places are going to suffer from this. It's something you need to know before you move here. If you have more questions on that, feel free to reach out to me. If you're using an online mortgage calculator, pay attention. Those mortgage calculators calculate a PITI payment, which is real estate jargon for principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. Because if you're a buyer who's getting a loan on a property, and again, if you're new to all this, we have great episodes on how all this works in the Informed Home Buyer podcast. But if you're new to all this, if you're getting a loan, you're going to have an impound account most likely, and your lender is going to pay your taxes and insurance for you as part of your mortgage payment, which means when the fire insurance costs go up, your mortgage payment goes up. So if you're looking at a regular old online mortgage calculator and it's got $100 a month for fire insurance in there because it's programmed for more of a urban or suburban setting, you need to look at that and bump that up way higher based on the numbers I'm giving you so that you get an accurate mortgage payment. Very often people play with a mortgage calculator online, then call myself, I refer them to my lender, and they get their actual payment based on what real fire insurance is going to cost them, and it really blows their hair back. It can be a $500 a month delta, which is big for most people. That changes how much home most people can buy, and it's something you need to be on top of before you start going out and looking at houses and end up falling in love with a house that you actually can't afford because of the cost of insurance. So this is a big deal. Reach out if you want more information. Criteria number 6 when evaluating Pollock Pines versus Camino is recreation. Now, this one, I am going to give the win to Pollock Pines, and let me explain why. Of course, these two places are very close together, and so you can access all of the recreation up in Pollock Pines from Camino, and you can access all of the recreation down in Placerville from either of these towns, and down in Coloma and Lotus from either of these towns, and up in South Lake Tahoe from either of these towns. The western slope of the Sierras is unparalleled in all the world in terms of being an absolute mecca for outdoor adventure sports enthusiasts. This place has everything you want and tons of it when it comes to outdoor recreation. Here's why Pollock Pines wins though, because of Jenkinson Lake. Camino will win for one sports enthusiast, and I'll mention that at the end of this section. But in general, Pollock Pines has Jenkinson Lake, which is an incredible recreation area, the whole Sly Park recreation area, which also kind of bleeds into the Park Creek Trail system as well out there, and not far from there, Fleming Meadows. It's all just an incredible place. But let's talk just Jenkinson Lake. 8.5 mile trail around the lake for hiking, mountain biking, walking the dogs, playing with the kids. Water, which in the summer, here's the secret, Pollock Pines is cooler in the summer because it's higher elevation, but in the shallows at the lake, late summer, that water warms up and it is just incredibly comfortable water for a long swim with the kids. So definitely check that out. So you've got your swimming, your paddleboarding, your canoeing, and your motorized boating and wakeboarding and that sort of thing as well right there on Jenkinson Lake. That 8.5 mile loop trail also has a beautiful waterfall in the spring, Park Creek Falls. You can access that at the end of the road with just a 1 mile, 2 mile round trip, 1 mile out, 1 mile back hike, or you can go from the second dam where it's a little over a 5 mile hike if you want to go that way. But it's just great. You have all the boating, all the hiking, all the mountain biking, chasing waterfalls, swimming. It's an incredible place. And there's camping. There's tent camping, there's RV camping. It's just a recreational paradise. It's like a mini Lake Tahoe. I'll link some videos at the end talking about Pollock Pines compared to Tahoe, but it can't be overstated how great Jenkinson Lake is, and for that reason, Pollock Pines gets the win. Now, Camino does have the only public golf course within a reasonable range of any of these towns in the foothills. So if you're a golfer and you want to live in the town where the golf course is really close, then Camino is for you. Apple Mountain Golf Course is incredible. Think beautiful, gorgeous Tahoe-like mountain and pine tree views with a golf course set into it. It's really a great place to go and play. So for my golf folks, Camino might be right for you. For everybody else, Pollock Pines gets the win in terms of recreation. Don't miss the recreation in Placerville, the recreation in South Lake Tahoe, and all the incredible whitewater recreation, mountain biking, hiking, and equestrian recreation down in Coloma, Lotus, and Cool and Pilot Hill. All of that is accessible from right here. So if you love outdoor recreation, you are looking at the right county. Criteria number 7 when evaluating these two communities, and it's a big one, is employment. Now, look, neither of these places really have almost anything in terms of employment. So let's get that out of the way right up front. I mean, Pollock Pines essentially has a gas station, a couple of restaurants, a grocery store, a hardware store, and that's about it. And so if you're not working in any of those, or maybe a ranger station here or there, then that's it. Working the kiosk at Jenkinson Lake, that's about all you've got. So most people in Pollock Pines are going to commute for work or be an entrepreneur and work from home. Now, Camino does have the Apple Hill Festival, has all the apple ranches, so there are sort of retail jobs all in and around the apple ranch, so it has a little bit more in terms of retail jobs on offer. There is a small downtown Camino with a post office and a couple of restaurants that you could work in as well, but essentially still most people living in Camino are commuting down the hill or they're an entrepreneur. Now Placerville, just down the hill, it is a county seat, so it has all the county jobs, it has a hospital, it has all of the sort of like mini surgery suites and supporting stuff around the hospital. So fair bit of medical jobs, fair bit of county jobs, and there's a lot of schools in Placerville, so fair bit of education jobs. It is the main shopping area for the foothills as well. It's the only place up here that has really big box retail, places like Target, Walmart, America's Tire. So a lot more employment on offer in Placerville, and you're maybe 25 minutes from that in Pollock Pines, 10 minutes from that in Camino, so you can access all of that. But the vast majority of people on the western slope of the foothills are either entrepreneurs or they commute down the hill to Sacramento for work. So if you are planning to move to one of these little towns and find a job, it's not the place to do that, really. You either need to be an entrepreneur and have your own job locked up, or you should really be finding employment before moving here, because you need to evaluate the commute to that employment. Whatever you do might require getting down the hill, and you want to make your decision on which town to live in based on how much commute you're willing to tolerate. 45 minutes from downtown Placerville to the steps of the Capitol in Sacramento. Add 25 minutes to that from Pollock Pines, and now you're at an hour and 10 minutes, and that's if there's not weather and traffic. So it makes a big deal which town you decide to live in based on employment. The important thing for you to know is there's essentially no real employment sources in either Camino or Pollock Pines. Now, when it comes to entrepreneurship, like I said, the Foothills is very supportive and has a large and robust entrepreneur community. If you're not commuting for work, you probably are working for yourselves. And we have creatives doing all sorts of things, from regular old everyday entrepreneurs like myself, who's a realtor, to the mechanics, to the plumbers. But also we have a lot of creatives up here, web designers. We also, El Dorado County is a very commonly used site for movies as a set location because it's so gorgeous. If you need a beautiful site to shoot an outdoor scene in a movie, we've got you covered here in El Dorado County. So as such, we have a lot of creatives working in sound design, editing, filming, shooting, that sort of stuff. They're all out here living as well, enjoying all the recreation and beauty the Foothills has to offer and getting to participate in the movie business from home. So if you're an entrepreneur, this is an incredible place to relocate, and there are a lot of other entrepreneurs here for you to network with, and a lot of people are just familiar with that lifestyle here because there are many, many of us living that way here in the Foothills. Criteria number 8, and the last criteria on our list to evaluate these two towns, Camino versus Pollock Pines, is snow. Like I said, this is a snow town showdown, so let's talk about the fluffy white stuff. When it comes to snow, it depends on your perspective. If you don't like snow, Camino wins. If you like snow, Pollock Pines wins. So When it comes down to snow, what does each town get? Camino is right at 3,000 feet above sea level. That is essentially our snow line, right where snow begins. So in most storms, it gets a little dusting, just enough to be fun and not enough to be inconvenient. In a few of the bigger storms of the year, Camino will get a little bit hammered. They'll have a few feet of snow. It'll stick around for a few days. So you might have to shovel or dig out a few times a year. You might have a couple days a year where you just want to stay home and not deal with it. It's just enough to be inconvenient a few times a year, but not too bad. Now, Pollock Pines is at 4,000 to 4,500 feet above sea level, depending on where you are in Pollock Pines, and it gets significant snow. So in any storm of the year where there's snow, Pollock Pines is gonna have snow and a fair bit of it, and enough to be inconvenient in almost every one of those storms. It will get 4 and 5 foot snow drifts that are gonna stick around for a few weeks at a time rather than a few days at a time down in Camino. Pollock Pines is a place where you have to plan on living with snow. You need to be shoveling, snow blowing, figuring out plowing schedules. Having an all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive vehicle is very helpful. You need to account for some days of the year where you're gonna have a snow day, where the kids aren't gonna go to school and you have to knock off work to take care of the kids, or where you can't get out if you're a commuter to get to work. And depending on how your employer handles that sort of thing, it could actually cost you a little bit of money living up there. So if you love the snow and your dream is to live in a little mountain town like South Lake Tahoe with the little A-frame chalet cabins in the pines and in the snow, and you don't mind dealing with it, Pollock Pines is the place for you. If you don't like having to deal with the inconvenience of snow all the time, but it would be really cool if it snowed a few times a year and get to have that beautiful look out the window, Camino is the place for you. All right, that wraps up our discussion of Pollock Pines versus Camino, California, two little hidden gem, tiny Northern California towns that both get snow, although not the same amount. I hope this information has helped you decide which of these towns might be best for your family. Or maybe you decided neither one, but you're still committed to moving to El Dorado County and you want some more information. So for a deeper dive into Pollock Pines, you can click this video right here for my pros and cons of Pollock Pines. For a deeper dive into Camino, you can click this video right here for my pros and cons of living in Camino, California. If you want to see Pollock Pines versus Tahoe and why it's everything that's great about Tahoe for half the price, you can click this video right here. And if you just want to compare some other towns in a head-to-head battle just like this one, you can click this playlist right here for my town versus town playlist. Either way, thanks for watching. Thanks for making it to the end with me, and I'll see you on the next one.